Hey Yu-Gi-Oh players, welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh Dueling Corner, doing an important news update for the change of game mechanics in the TCG for Yu-Gi-Oh. Konami has decided to remove priority from ignition effect monsters in TCG. Now, I want this to be clear. I don't want you guys getting a misunderstanding saying, oh, priority was removed from everything from Yu-Gi-Oh. That's not true. Priority was only removed from ignition effect monsters. That's a big misunderstanding. People think they removed priority completely, which they did not. I will be covering how things worked before and how things will work now. I will cover what has gone up in value. I will touch on what has gone down in value. I will talk about how this changes the plays for some decks. So this is a very important video. It will teach you maybe some rulings that you might not have known before, and this, it could be the difference between a winner or loss if you're in a competitive scene. So please pay attention to this. It's a big update for Yu-Gi-Oh. So let's get to it. First monster I'm going to cover is BLS. Now, there's ignition effect monsters and there are trigger effect monsters. Now remember, ignition effect monsters were the ones that got priority removed from. Trigger effect never really had priority, if I'm not mistaken. So what play you could do before is you would special summon the BLS. Now, if your opponent just happened to activate Torrential and they didn't ask you if you wanted the priority, then you would say, priority, remove your monster, and their monster would be removed. So you would still get the effect of removing it. Or you would, special summon your opponent, do priority effect, and you would like, yeah, remove your monster, then they would activate Torrential on the summon. So before, you used to be able to get the removal of the monster with the BLS. Or let's say they bottomless, it's the same play. You special summon this, they activate bottomless, you say priority, remove your monster, and your monster is gone. Now, since priority has been removed from, remember, ignition effect monsters, you special summon this, they activate bottomless, your BLS is gone, you don't get to activate the effect, because you don't get the priority on the effect. If they activate compulsory or torrential or whatever monster, anything else like that, you're not going to be able to get the effect. So, next card. Just like BLS, you special summon this before you used to have the priority to blow up the field. Now you don't have the priority to blow up the field. They can just, whatever, they could trap hole your JD and your JD's gone and their monsters are safe. So this is another card that's been affected. So this really hurts Lightsworns because of the JD and the BLS, both cards that were running the deck. Same thing with Chaos Sorcerer. Next, I'm going to cover, again, this is an ignition effect monster, but it's a little different. It's the cards I'm about to cover are cost to remove, to activate. So before, you would summon Rescue Rabbit, or your opponent would. They would, 9 out of 10 times they would call priority. The only reason they wouldn't call priority if they had some crazy play where they had 4 monsters in the graveyard, they had Leviair, they detached to special summon the rabbit, and they used Pot of Avarice. They wouldn't call ignition then. Priority. But for any other time they would call priority, there was pretty much no reason for them not to. Just leave the field, and you would not have a target for your Fiendish Chain, your Change of Disappearance, or your Effect Failure. But because this is an ignition effect, priority is gone. What will happen now is your opponent or you will normal summon this. You do not get the priority. So they could activate compulsory, bounce it back to your hand, you wasted your normal summon. Or they could torrential, you would not get your monsters, this will go to the grave. Or they can simply effect failure this, and you're left with a Rescue Rabbit on your field, which they're probably going to run over unless you have back row to protect it. One play I want to cover that was the same before, but I don't want you guys messing up on this if you're versing a Rescue Rabbit deck. If your opponent normal summons a Rescue Rabbit, they no longer have the priority to remove. So that means you have a target for your Fiendish Chain. Now pay very close attention because this works for any monster that has a cost to remove as like a tribute. Or a cost tribute. You activate Fiendish Chain, its effect is negated, but you can't negate costs. So what can happen is even after you Fiendish Chain the monster, it's equipped to the monster, Rescue Rabbit is negated, they can still tribute this as a cost. And after it leaves the field, that's when its effect resolves, which means Fiendish Chain is no longer negating Rescue Rabbit. So Rescue Rabbit still, before it got around Fiendish Chain, it's just you weren't able to Fiendish Chain a Rescue Rabbit. Now you're going to be able to Fiendish Chain it, but it's not going to do anything. So don't Fiendish Chain a Rescue Rabbit and think that it's negated. It's not negated. Same thing with Mystic Piper and Exiled Force. This is a cost to tribute, so is Exiled Force. You cannot Fiendish Chain this. It's going to equip to a monster. I'm going to tribute this as a cost. My effect's going to resolve off the field, and I'm still going to get my draw. Or if it's an Exiled Force, I'm still going to get to pop your monster. So don't Fiendish Chain this. You can effect failure this. Sucks for all Chaos Piper players or my Exodia Piper deck. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. So that hurts them quite a bit, but it does make them waste their effect failures earlier, so they don't waste their effect failures on the Kinka if they're wasting them early. Another monster that I'm going to cover about the tribute is Hand of the 6am. Kind of works like Exiled Force, but it requires another 6am to be on the field. This used to have priority. If you had another 6am, you could normal summon this, or you could normal summon this, and then special summon the Kazan, use the effect. You're no longer going to get the priority. They can effect failure this, and you cannot tribute. So effect failure stops this. Just pay attention to that. Next I'm going to cover cards that are not affected by this change. I covered Ignition effect monsters. Now this is trigger effect monsters. I normal summon this. It's a trigger effect. If you torrential, I can search my Sanguine. Sanguine will get blown up with the torrential. I will still get the search on my torrential. So, it's not like the JD where you just torrential the JD, can't activate the effect. This is a trigger effect. It happens on the summon. And there are two types of trigger monster effects. There is a mandatory and there's optional. So both monsters can still activate their effect because it's upon normal summon. So remember that. Another example of this is Monarchs. Now this is a mandatory effect. So if I normal summon this, you have to torrential. I can still remove a back row, or I can remove a monster you have, so it doesn't go to the graveyard. So this is unaffected by that kind of plays. One last example of this is Compulsory. Not Compulsory. The gadgets. Now these are optional because it says you can add, but even though it's an optional trigger effect, this is not. If you trap hole this, if you Compulsory this, it still hits the field unless you're activating Silent Warning. Same as before, it doesn't hit the field. If you hit torrential, it still hits the field, and you still get the search if you want to. I want to touch on just a couple cards. Compulsory. This has gone up in value. The Supers shot up in value. You might be seeing this played more. You're going to normal summon. It's going to waste your normal summon. You can bounce it back to their hand, leaves with them with an open field. So you might see Compulsories more. It's kind of a one-for-one answer. It's a good card, whether you want to run it or not. Another example is Torrential. Even though Torrential went at 2, you saw a lot of players only running 1. And what that did was it made your opponent think that you might be running the second Torrential, so they were worried, but 2 Torrentials was kind of too much. Now you might see 2 Torrentials, without being able to priority a BLS or a JD or other monsters, or Rescue Rabbit. You could Torrential Rescue Rabbit, So Torrential might be seeing 2 in some more decks than before. What else has gone up in value is effect failure. And just go to traps for a second. Bottomless has gone up. Trap hole has gone up. If you want to run trap hole, maybe for like Insectors. Pretty much any card similar to that has gone up in value. Effect failure. This is a lot better than it is before because now you can effect failure Rescue Rabbit. It really hurt the Donny Rabbit deck. I'm not going to say it's dead. I'm not going to say that. We just don't know. But with Maxis and effect failures and Fiendish Chains, it kind of depends if who goes first. If they get the Rescue Rabbit and they go first, okay. So effect failure. has gone up in value. I think that at the time of making this video, the super is 10, the rare might be 15, and I know the ultra is more than that. So it's gone up a little bit. You might see people who might have been only running 2 might be running 3 now. So just pay attention to that. So another card that is important now is Forbidden Lance and Chalice. I don't have the Chalice to show you guys. You can go look it up if you don't know what it is. Forbidden Lance. Now the reason this is important is because you're might see more people running Trap Hole, Bottomless, Compulsory, Torrential, and let's say you're running the Rabbits. I mean they already ran this anyways, but you would normal summon the Rabbit. You no longer get priority, so they're going to Torrential. Now you can Lance your Rabbit, protect it doesn't die, then you get to tribute it, and you get the 2 monsters on the field. So that will go up in value. Chalice will go up in value. So these are important cards because you can now chain them to protect your monster. So make sure you know what has priority and what doesn't, because priority has not been removed. You need to know what does have priority and what doesn't. It's going to be a game changer from a win or loss, and you don't want to get caught from a loss from a lack of knowledge on a ruling. So pay attention to that. You might be seeing less Rabbits, less Chaos Piper. Insectors seem to be okay. I mean, they didn't need priority. Wind-ups, they got affected just a little bit because they could activate priority on the wind-up hunter to hit a card in your hand, and now they don't have priority. So pay attention with that. And just remember, only ignition effect monsters had priority removed. Can't stress that enough. People are saying, oh, priority has been removed from Yu-Gi-Oh! It hasn't been removed from Yu-Gi-Oh! Just ignition monsters. Can't stress that enough. So that's it for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Update. Sorry that it's been such a long video, but I wanted to make people understand what it was like before and what it is now, and what Yu-Gi-Oh! is going to be like, what has gone up in value, what has gone down in value. Rabbits probably have definitely gone down in value. They're not as good. Lighthorns are not as good. So just pay attention to that. And always remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Those really help me. I notice every time someone subscribes, I know every time whenever you guys comment, I always try to respond. So if you have any questions, you can PM me, or you can talk to me on Dueling Network. My Dueling Network ID is Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling Corner. It's the same as my channel. And I will be trying to post as many videos for you guys. I post weekly, and I will post if there's any new updates on any future game mechanic changes or anything else. So, like always, have a good day.